Linton Kwesi Johnson OD was born on the 24th of August, 1952, also known as LKJ, is a Jamaica-born, British-based dub poet and activist. In 2002, he became the second living poet, and the only black one, to be published in the Penguin Modern Classics series. His performance poetry involves the recitation of his own verse in Jamaican patois over dub-reggae, usually written in collaboration with reggae producer, artist Dennis Bovell. Early life. Johnson was born in Chapelton, a small town in the rural parish of Clarendon, Jamaica. His middle name, Kwesi, is a Ghanaian name that is given to boys who, like Johnson, are born on a Sunday. In 1963, he and his father came to live in Brixton, London, joining his mother, who had immigrated to Britain as part of the Windrush generation shortly before Jamaican independence in 1962. Johnson attended Tulsa Hill School in Lambeth. While still at school, he joined the British Black Panther movement, helped to organize a poetry workshop within the movement, and developed his work with Rasta Love, a group of poets and drummers. Johnson studied sociology at Goldsmiths College in New Cross, London, graduating in 1973. Speaking in a 2018 interview about his start as a poet, he said, "I began to write verse, not only because I liked it, but because it was a way of expressing the anger, the passion of the youth of my generation in terms of our struggle against racial oppression. Poetry was a cultural weapon in the Black liberation struggle, so that's how it began." During the early to mid-1970s, he was employed as the first paid library resources and education officer at the Keskadee Center, where his poem, Voices of the Living and the Dead, was staged, produced by Jamaican novelist Lindsay Barrett, with music by the reggae group Rasta Love. Johnson has recalled, "It was fantastic, having written something and having it staged with actors and musicians. That was back in 1973, before I had a poem published anywhere. That was before anyone had ever heard of Linton Kwesi Johnson." Johnson wrote for New Musical Express, Melody Maker, and Black Music in the 1970s. As a freelancer for Virgin Records, he wrote biographies for their reggae artists, sleeve notes, and copy for adverts. Poetry. Most of Johnson's poetry is political, dealing mainly with the experiences of being an African Caribbean in Britain. Writing was a political act, and poetry was a cultural weapon. He told an interviewer in 2008. However, he has also written about other issues, such as British foreign policy and the death of anti-racist marcher Blair Peach. Johnson wrote Reggae Fidada on the death of his father in 1982, blaming social conditions. His most celebrated poems were written during the government of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The poems contain graphic accounts of the racist police brutality occurring at the time. Johnson's poetry makes clever use of the unstandardized transcription of Jamaican patois. Johnson's poems first appeared in the journal Race Today, which published his first collection of poetry, Voices of the Living and the Dead, in 1974. Dreadbeat and Blood, his second collection, was published in 1975 by Bogle Louverture. A collection of his poems has been published as Me Revaluationary Friend by Penguin Modern Classics. Johnson is one of only 3 living poets to be published by Penguin Modern Classics. Essays. Johnson's essays, spanning 50 years, 1976 to 2021, are collected in the volume Time Come, Picador, 2023. As described by Colin Grant, the writing is often flinty and flecked with passion, taut and reasoned, but on the edge of fury. The grace and power of LKJ's writing are as necessary as ever. Reviewing it in the Sunday Times, Tomiwa Owolade concludes, This volume emphasizes the fact that Johnson is a dedicated cultural critic, rather than simply an activist who happens to write dub poetry. Music career. Johnson's best-known albums include his debut, Dreadbeat and Blood, 1978, Forces of Victory, 1979, Bass Culture, 1980, LKJ in Dub, 1980, and Making History, 1983. Across them are spread classics of the dub poetry school of performance and of reggae itself, such as Dreadbeat and Blood, Sonny's Letter, England is a Bitch, Independent in Tavernshan, and All We Doin' is Defendin'. His poem, De Great Insurrection, is his response to the 1981 Brixton riots. The work was the subject of a BBC Radio 4 programme in 2007. Johnson's work, allied to the Jamaican toasting tradition, is regarded as an essential precursor of rap. Johnson's record label LKJ Records, launched in 1981, is home to other reggae artists, some of whom made up the dub band with whom Johnson mostly recorded, and other dub poets, such as Jean Binta Breeze. Past releases on the label include recordings by Mikey Smith. Awards and honors. Johnson received a C. Day Lewis Fellowship in 1977, and that year became Writer-in-Residence for the London Borough of Lambeth. He was made an Associate Fellow of Warwick University in 1985 and an Honorary Fellow of Wolverhampton Polytechnic in 1987, and in 1990 received an award at the 13th Premio Internazionale Ultimo Novecento from the city of Pisa for his contribution to poetry and popular music. In 1998, he was awarded the Premio Piero Ciampicetta di Livorno Concorso Musicale Nazionale in Italy. In 2003, Johnson was given an honorary fellowship at his alma mater, Goldsmiths College, University of London. In 2004, he became an honorary visiting professor of Middlesex University in London. In 2005, he was awarded a Silver Musgrave Medal from the Institute of Jamaica for distinguished eminence in the field of poetry. In 2012, he was awarded the Golden Pen Award by English Pen for a lifetime's distinguished service to literature. He is a trustee of the George Padmore Institute, GPI, and is a contributor to the GPI's collection of dialogues Changing Britannia, Life Experience with Britain, edited by Roxy Harris and Sarah White, New Beacon Books, 1999. In August 2014, it was announced that he would receive the Jamaican National Honor of the Order of Distinction in October that year. On the 20th of April 2017, he was awarded an honorary doctorate of literature by Rhodes University in South Africa. In July 2020, Johnson was awarded the Penn Pinter Prize, established in Harold Pinter's name to defend freedom of expression and celebrate literature, for his commitment to political expression in his work. Announcing the award, the judges described Johnson as a living legend, a poet, reggae icon, academic and campaigner whose impact on the cultural landscape over the last half-century has been colossal and multi-generational. His political ferocity and his tireless scrutiny of history are truly Pinteresque, as is the humor with which he pursues them. Receiving the award at a live online event hosted by the British Library in October 2020, Johnson named Eritrean poet, songwriter, and journalist Emmanuel Asrat as the International Writer of Courage with whom he would share the prize. Johnson is chair of 198 Contemporary Arts and Learning, an art gallery and learning institution in Brixton. He is also working on a new collection of poetry. In addition to his artistic work, Johnson has remained active in political and social activism. He has campaigned against racism, police violence, and other forms of injustice, and has been involved in movements supporting the rights of immigrants and refugees in the UK. Linton Kwesi Johnson's wife is Sharmila Bismohun. He also had a previous marriage to Barbara, the daughter of his mother's hairdresser. Please subscribe for more celebrity stories.